Welcome back to another episode of Know Your Legacy. I'm your host, V, and today's guest is Don Jose Ruiz. He's the author of the book, The Fifth Agreement, which is the sequel to the legendary book, The Four Agreements. But Don Jose had a bit of an interesting upbringing because he was surrounded by many spiritual teachings that affected the way that he was brought up and eventually led him to enjoy and understand the feeling of what it's like to be truly present and live a life free of judgment. He's also the founder of the Universe of Now project, which helps others cultivate the gift of being present and to bring it into their lives. And if he's not doing any of that, he's traveling and producing music with the Circle of Shadow. So Don Jose, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Oh, thank you for the invitation, people. Very happy to be here connecting from California to London.
Most definitely. So we were just talking off air, a little while ago about the importance of the work that you do and, why I wanted to bring you on. But I think before we get into all of those deeper topics, it'd be good to just lay the foundation for those who maybe are hearing about your work for the first time and may have not seen some of the work that you've done online. So where is it you were born, and how was your upbringing different to that of a typical Western kid? Because I know you live in America now, so you see how kids operate, how they live, how they grow up, what their parents are like. How does that differ to what you went through?
Well, one of the beautiful things about my family tradition is the magic of storytelling, because storytelling makes you open up your imagination and your heart, not just like follow a structure or someone else's dream, but in opening your imagination and your heart, you can follow your own dream and talk about your desires, talk about what makes you happy, talk about your honesty. And that's something, that I was very raised in my family, to be honest with ourselves. And, one thing that happens we cannot avoid is that the dream's going to get us. Like my father said, if I don't domesticate you, someone else will. So he gave us the most domestication that we can so we can unlearn it. But once we get into the world, the pure pressure of things, and, you want to fit in, and then you begin believing in lies, in self-judgments. And little by little, you believe in that, and it gets you. So my family gave me all those options and tools so I can wake up when I was introduced to that kind of life. But the beautiful thing about the family upbringing is that, that we believe in magic. And the magic is created by self-belief and in our words. And when we honor our word and we honor ourselves, the magic will be deliver us to wake us up from any kind of dream. And this is what I grew up learning, that life is a dream. And if we don't like our dream, we can change it. And if we like it, we can continue with it. So this is one of the beautiful things. But, the addiction of suffering is everywhere. No matter how much awareness one has, it's going to get us. So in my upbringing, I got filled with the addiction of suffering that, I'm still recovering from that. And this is what the beautiful thing about waking up is that, we all are the love of our life. We just believe in lies by the addiction of suffering, because it doesn't matter if it's a substance, it's a negative judgment, or something that happened 20 years ago that's not happening. We're just tendency to hurt ourselves again and again. That's why my father in one of the books says, imagine being the only sober person in a world where everybody completely drunk. So one of the beautiful things about growing up with my family is that, we begin to see that illusion, but it's just illusion. So we have two choices. We can go the positive illusion, the negative illusion, but this is when we come out, and everything that we work in life was supposed to be because it happened. But that experience of how we handle our own illusion and wake ourselves up is how we stop hurting ourselves with our life, with our stories, being the scorpion that sings with his own stinger. We stop doing that, and we wake up just to, to see the beauty of life. And it doesn't matter if you wake up, there's still going to be problems in life. There's going to be still negativity. The problem the problem is that we drown ourselves in it. And the solution that we Toltec offer is to be strong. And it's like in the India tradition, I love when, Lord Vishnu wakes up and is meditating, but they have a little demon protecting Vishnu. But that's our parasite. And I really connected with the Toltec tradition, because there comes a point when we wake up, and the moment that we used to hurt ourselves with becomes our strongest ally, because we have awareness to not return to a negative dream anymore.
As you were talking, I was just thinking, you mentioned about, a little bit about Hinduism there. And I think they call the illusion Maya. And
Yes.
they have a similar concept where they say this is all a dream and you can change it. And that's where the power is, to realize it's not external, it's internal. It lies with you. So if you don't like people, experiences, or the environment, you can change it. And I think people forget that along the way, and they get attached. And that's where the issue comes in, where they get attached to their, not just like material things, but the judgment, the beliefs, the mindset, all of these things. And then it becomes part of their identity. And then they can't break out from that character. And all of your work focuses on that, right?
Yes, and then we forget we're on vacation, because life itself is a vacation. And then we get so much problems saying, oh, my suitcase got lost. I'm not going to have fun without my suitcase. But is the suitcase on vacation, or are we? That's why, the suitcase represents so many things of what makes us happy, what makes us, suffer. But when we get rid of that, we to what mama gave us, and that's life itself. And so when we wake up from this point of view, every day is a miracle because we are here.
Yeah, most definitely, exactly. So if you're alive another day, that's another day to be grateful and another day to be joyous. But where were you born then? Like, because I know you weren't always in LA or San Diego, right?
Yes, I was born in Mexico City, and then 3 months after I was born, my family moved to Tijuana, which is a border town between America and Mexico. So that's where I grew up, in Tijuana, Mexico. And when I was around 2021, I moved to United States when I got married.
Oh, okay, fine. So then, what was the schools like in Tijuana? Because um, obviously, with the teachings that you were brought up with, I don't know how different that was to maybe some of the kids that you were friends with, or some of the people that you went to school with, and even if they taught that kind of stuff at school there.
Well, it's like any other school in another part of the world. People are the same everywhere. The dreams everywhere. The thing that changes is the language or belief system. But when it comes to a mother nature, it's the same thing. So, a lot of our tradition was hidden by a long time. And they just teach about their point of view of the anthropologies, of the archaeologies, and things, but who knows if it's true or not. But what was made it true, it was the history about it, the artifacts that they find, the stories that they created. That was so beautiful. But, never really touched base on the true core of the magic of the tradition, because, people don't understand it. People had to go to some other traditions to find it. But it comes a point, when we find this tradition in the Mexica tradition of the ancestors, that it goes with the Egyptian, with the Hindu, with the Christianity, and it's all about, to be grateful to Mother, to Divine Mother, our planet, because even our bodies are a purification of Mother. But one of the beautiful things about having the honoring Mother, honoring the woman, is because they have the portal between the infinite and the manifest, and they hold such a magnificent vibration. And this is what we honor in the Toltec tradition. We honor Mother. So it doesn't matter if you're male or female, you carry the body of Mother. And this is one of the beautiful things. They don't teach us in school, because, this life teaches us. And from the moment we're born, there's been someone teaching us, and this is life itself. So our experiences, they've been perfect. We're perfect with the mistakes that we have done, that we will do, and that are doing, because that's what makes us wake up. What is not normal is the self-judgment, because that's the illusion that we build ourselves up. Even if we do a mistake that we consider a mistake, a sin or whatever that happened 10 years ago, we can still be holding that opinion and judging and hurting our life right now, because we don't know how to let go, because we're addicted to suffering. And what good is it to understand the infinite and the open heart if we cannot use it, the word, as to hurt ourselves with it? But it comes a moment when you respect life, you respect the infinite, and you respect Mother. So how you're treating yourself is how you're treating Mother. No more with just words or saying, I love. No, you're showing it, because what we do, what we talk, what comes out of us is the ripples that we create in this world. So the Toltec begin waking up from the infinite point of view, because either this body that I carry, even when we go to a museum and see skeletons, that's not the real us. They're just part of Mother. What the real us is that intent behind that. So that's the vibration that we create wherever we go. So it takes us a time to believe in ourselves, because we believe in the illusion, we believe in the problems, we believe in the suffering. But the moment that we see life as a vacation, and we throw the suitcase out, and we carry Mother like the little angel, the Jose Guadalupe, the Mother Mary, or, we're the little mind taking care of our body. And, I see many people who have great awareness, but they don't take care of their body. They take care of, they put poison, they put alcohol, they put all this negativity into their body. They, that their body is suffering, and that's how we treat Mother, and saying we are meant for love. No, when we are waking up, we begin taking care of body, mind, spirit, and everything. And especially, what are we going to leave to the little ones? Because, like my stepmother used to say, I love everybody like they were my own children. So when we begin waking up this consciousness, it's because the infinite is coming. And it's not about what tradition we come from, what religion we believe in, or what sex we are. No, it's that life coming through us, and we're doing our best. And that's the fourth agreement.
Yeah, most definitely. So I resonate with everything you're saying, but I'm interested to know then, you seem like a very present, joyous, happy person who has found balance in life, right? Through the teachings that you've done, and through the day-to-day experiences you've had, you've managed to find a point of balance where you can, you can operate from there without getting burnt out. What do you ever feel sad?
Oh yes, that's one of the first rules of the art of happiness, that we're not happy all the time, and because the body's going to feel the sadness. The difference is what story are we going to support in our body. So like, like in some temples, they have a fire that's been burning for 500 years, and they only put the good firewood with honesty, devotion. They do not put negativity out there. So when we know that the body's going to feel whatever it is, a story, it is whatever we put into us that, they become vibration. So of course the body's going to feel traumatized, especially if like it's in an abusive relationship for 10 years, now gets into another relationship, and you get triggered by little things. The body is traumatized, so we have to learn how to heal it once again. But in order for me to begin enjoying life like I am now, like I share right now, I had to make a lot of decisions that were not for the best of Jose, you know. And I hurt Jose so many times in my life. I tried to take Jose's life a few times. I went to drug addiction. I was a junkie, and but in getting out of there, I used all the power of my family to self-love, and I begin loving my body without judgments. That's why I said, when you wake up and into this world, it's another day of life. And I'm not going to waste it to self-abuse myself with the decisions that I made 20 years ago, 10 years ago, saying, oh, I was a junkie. So what if I was a junkie? Being a junkie made me enjoy my life, made me be grateful for what I have right now, and let go of what doesn't serve me. And it's not in vain that I went through those years, because I wish I could talk to an 11-year-old Jose, but I can't, because it's already grown up. But there are other kids who are 11-year-old, 15-year-olds who are going through the same thing that I went through. And because I went through that, I can speak through them. So in order, helping myself in the outside makes me happy. So, when I go into a classroom with 30 people, they think I'm giving them the gift. No, they're giving me the gift so I can open my heart and see them as a mirror, so I can continue serving Jose. Because, after all these teachings I've gone through, I know that the meaning of my life is to take care of Jose, because I know what makes me happy, and I know what makes me suffer. And how do I know this? Is because I am Jose. So I'm going back to service and being devotional to mother, because the body that I carry is my mother's body. So I've been disrespecting mother all my life. So the moment I make that decision, yes, there'll be some bad days. I'm gonna feel heartbreak in the future, but how I handle what's going to come is different from when I handled it when I was asleep.
Yeah, most definitely. So is that why you refer to yourself as Jose, like in third person, because you're not attached to your own body, like you realize there's a distance?
Yes, because I didn't even pick my name. My parents gave me that name. I didn't even choose what sex to be. I was just born into it. But now when I got the consciousness after believing I was Jose for all my life, no, it's just a name. It doesn't make me happiness. What makes me happiness is to take care of that character, to take care of that person, because he's the love of my life. And they do the wedding vows, and I made a vow to take care of this person who has suffered all his life. And and even when I go into a relationship, I'm not marrying the other person. I'm sharing my heaven, my Jose, with that other person, because no one has the right to scream at me, and I don't have the right to scream at nobody, because my harmony is with myself. So that is my ashram, that is my temple, and this is my third person. It's like coming back to life, and I do a step in, and I'm taking this responsibility that my temple was corrupted. I take the corruption out of it, and I learn how to enjoy this life, because we never know when it's going to be the last day of our life. But we're not going to be fearful that's going to be the last day. We're going to live like we're going to live forever, plan forever, and create, because that's why the Toltec are named artists, because we are artists of the spirit to create a masterpiece of art with our life. And our life is the art. So everything, how we take things in life, how we express ourselves, how we react to things, and what comes out of us, this is the art that we create, because one day we'll have memories. And what are we going to remember? The self-judgments, that's our art, or when us express a beauty of romance, and close our eyes. I made this song and I sang it to this crowd, and I felt the fear, but I overcame my fear, and it made me alive. So that memory I will have, how I overcame myself.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So I think as you were talking, you mentioned the Toltec, and I think a lot of your teachings are all based on that. For you to become the person that you are, you follow the Toltec tradition. But if there's someone listening right now, they don't really know, what is the Toltec tradition, because maybe we weren't taught it in school, or they haven't come across it yet. Can you just give a brief background what the Toltec tradition is, and I guess some of the main teachings that you find are the most powerful?
Yes. Well, the Olmec was the first tradition in Mexico, in the old Mexicans, and then later came out the Toltec, the Mayan, but the Toltec was the religious one. And it was religious, not that it was just like a dogmatic one. No, they see life everywhere. They see God everywhere, and they name themselves artists. So the word Toltec means artist of the spirit. It's not a religion. It's a way of expressing. So right now, when we talk about Toltec, we're not talking about the Toltec of 3,000 years ago. We're talking about the Toltec of today, the 7 billion artists that exist today, not in a religious way, but knowing that we can create art with all the experience that we have seen, that we created because we awake ourselves in this side dream. And life is a dream. So a Toltec knows that he's dreaming. So if we don't like our art, we can change it and contribute to the big picture, the biggest art, that is Divine Mother's art. So from this point on, we begin the real service, and enlightenment is service. Enlightenment is not when the rainbow comes out, and, and Bambi comes out and there's no more problem. No, life is life. Enlightenment for us is being at service to Divine Mother. And we cannot give what we don't have, so we begin being a service to us. So the Toltec is always being honest with the creation that he's doing and never disrespects his art, but contributes every beautiful thing they can from their heart.
So how did you implement that into your life then, in terms of, really taking on board self-love and being able to love unconditionally? Is that something that you can teach, or is that something that someone has to just experience?
Well, we can teach everything, but the shoe won't fit until it gets inside, after the experience is done. But that's why we are always sleeping in life until something happens that opens up our consciousness. And one thing that opened up my consciousness is when I tried to take my own life, and then to say sorry to the people that I hurt, but especially to myself, because when I look into the mirror after I did that act, I just saw my own reflection. And I said, oh my God, that reflection has always been loyal to me. No matter if I'm going to heaven or go to hell, it's always following me. But when am I going to be loyal to that reflection? And this is the moment when I decided to step into my Toltec tradition, because in the Toltec tradition, there's nothing to learn, but to unlearn what takes our inspiration away. So when I look myself into the mirror, I ask for forgiveness to myself. And the forgiveness is to never repeat that act again, and to do everything I can to serve that love of my life, which is Jose. So the moment I make an agreement of love, saying, I will unlearn everything that takes my inspiration away to serve Jose. So that moment, it is like being skeptical, but learn to listen with my heart. Like you say, I'm not perfect, I cannot change. It's so difficult to be skeptical of the negativity. No, yes, I can change. It's difficult, and I'm going to make the best out of things, and I'll do everything in my word so I can overcome that thing. So I begin prophetizing, but not prophetizing the outside. I'm prophetizing my own intent. And when you prophetize your own intent and you get over yourself and you prove that you can plan with your word an act of magic and make that a reality and break that addiction of suffering that we contribute all our life, when we test that power in our behalf, we can let go of any addiction, substance, and the addiction of suffering, which is created in our life to not enjoy it. So in that moment, we break a spell by casting a spell, by honoring our life again. And from this point on, we can just see everybody dreaming their dream. Like right now, even in the big politicians are dreaming a dream of the old ways that is about to change, because it's no more about greed, it's about life itself. And when the body knows that it's grasping for life, something happens energetically, and we begin having more consciousness. And the kids right now, they're having so much consciousness, and the only thing we have to do is just be honest and overcome ourselves. And a service to mother is a service to the big picture.
I think, from what you're saying, so many people would be surprised to hear that you even went through that, because, someone who's grown up with the practice of the Toltec tradition, from what you're saying, and the four agreements as well, and some of the other spiritual teachings you were surrounded by, because I know your grandmother was a healer and a shaman as well. What led you to eventually, become addicted to drugs, and what age was that?
Curiosity, pure pressure. And especially when I was like 10 years old, I attended this gathering, and this gathering were just adults. I felt like the biggest adults, but the only thing that the adults were talking about is their drama, their victimization, their addiction of suffering. And in order for me to be a grown-up, you have to have all that. So I went knocking on the devil's door, and I got lost. But like my grandma said, if you copy what I'm doing, you're killing the Toltec tradition. And if you copy what your father did, you're killing the Toltec tradition. And I said, what do you mean, Grandma? You'll know one day. So my great-grandfather, he was an undertaker, and he teach people by living in the graveyard and teaching them with fear. My other grandfather, his son, was a musician, a military person that was, very impeccable with his word, integrity, discipline, and, heard music as a teaching. His daughter was a curandera, a faith healer, a Wicca tradition curandera from the old tradition of Mexico. And my father was a medical doctor. And that's how they got the awareness. But I was a junkie. So I went inside this teaching. So I knew that I was going to come out to teach these people. But it was all curiosity because I had everything. But deep inside, I knew when I was 9 years old that I was going to be doing this work because my grandmother said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be a healer like you are." And I said, "And where you want to do it?" She said, and I said, "I want to do it in Japan." So I have a translator. No one understands me, but I'm having faith that I'm giving the message word. And that happened 10 years ago, brother. That dream happened 10 years ago. So I knew that it wasn't in vain. So I was going to go through this. But, we all have to go through our experiences to share. We cannot give what we don't have. So at one point, it was curiosity of the dream of the planet of suffering. But like the ancestors used to say, I sent my child to the jungle. The jungle might eat him. But if he comes out and survives the jungle, he will have the blessing from the jungle and sit in the fire pit and continue sharing these stories. And the story it is that we all are keepers of the flame. From my point of view, everyone's a shaman. It's just about waking up that inner fire that we have to believe in ourselves and overcome our own negativity. When we become our own negativity, that's like my dad writing the 4 agreements. He wrote the 4 agreements for his own integrity. And everybody who reads the book I've talked to says, I felt like he wrote that book just especially for me and he goes, of course I did, because it's integrity to integrity. We cannot do integrity. And I said to him, I will master these 4 agreements, no problem, piece of cake. And then I returned 1 month later and said, these agreements are difficult. He goes, no, they're simple. The agreements are difficult that you have made with yourself in life. And that's what we're ready to unlearn.
No, that's deep. What's the biggest thing that you think is stopping people from becoming themselves? Because you talk a lot about becoming your authentic self and living authentically and allowing yourself to allowing the energy to flow through you. And I think what we tend to do is create blocks to stop that energy being fully flowing through us.
The misuse of the word. We don't honor the word. We even have to have contracts to sign because the word doesn't mean anything anymore. But when you begin honoring your word, you put your intent in your integrity in that word. And it's like the tarot, the magician card. It has a sword and a double-edged sword that represents the word. You can use the word in your behalf or against yourself. And this is the thing. People use the word against themselves. They're paralyzed, especially when they did the genocide against women hundreds of years ago and the suppressed mother. That is a curse that we all put into ourselves because we're suppressing our own mother. We're suppressing ourselves. We're suppressing what we feel to be happy. We're sacrificing every day because of that thing. But the moment that we begin honoring the word and begin honoring the mother that we are and begin honoring life once again, we know that life is short, that we don't have time to put spells and hurt one another, that we're here to empower one another and to support spirit instead of breaking them, especially our own, because how many times do we break our own spirit? Something happens in life, we don't want to live anymore. Heartbreak, we don't want to live anymore. We lose a job, instead of being grateful, the angel of death, life took it away. That means that it would have never come in the first place. So thank you for giving us this opportunity. Thank you for giving this opportunity of life. And when we're not afraid to die, we're not afraid to live, especially when we have our word to make us strong and be impeccable with it. We begin to think impeccably, then we're at service. And that little angel that has a sword in the tarot card wakes up to take care of itself. That's why I make a prayer every day in my life. May life protect me from myself. And here I go into life to experience, to not take anything personal, to make, not make assumptions with my word, to not use the word to betray myself and to do my best, to be skeptical of my own negativity. But when I'm impeccable with my word, something magically begins happening in my head. I begin thinking impeccably. They begin having integrity. So that's what I see. Well, people, they don't honor themselves. Even they don't honor animals, They think they don't have any feelings, but our animal has a feeling. The moment that we don't see animals like something that's not from the divine, and we see them as a divine, everything begins changing because we see our own body like an animal that deserves to live.
Part of the same kingdom. And so
Yes.
we give them this, we give them mutual respect. But then what happens if someone lets their emotions get in the way? For example, they feel anger or jealousy because of their old their old mindset or their old belief system, book of laws, as your dad says. At that point in that moment, they can break their word and say something they don't mean or something they regret? What happens at that point? I mean, like if you give an example of maybe some of the people you've worked with that have faced that, or something from your own personal life, and how someone would overcome that, because I think a lot of people are in that place where they're still trying to master themselves.
Yes. At one point from the outside is when someone screams at us, it's being negative, it has nothing to do with us. They're just asking for help. They're trapped in that bubble. Now, from the other side, who's trapped in the bubble, like I had a friend saying, Jose, I can't stop judging. I can't stop judging. I said, hey, brother, so the judgment came out of you or just in your head? No, just in my head, and I punish myself. That's a good thing to celebrate. He goes, why? It's because you cut yourself. You cut yourself before coming out of you. Yes, you deal with it in your head. You feel the uncomfortableness, but this is what yoga is all about. Yoga is to get comfortable in discomfort. And before there begins a yoga movement in the body, you have to start doing yoga in your mind. So this is how we begin unlearning. We begin catching ourselves. Yes, if we do something, okay, let's be honest about it. I did this, it felt like this, and it doesn't feel good anymore. So the next time I catch it, but honesty is the way to go. But if you're wanting to change, you will see this. But if you don't want to change, if you want to please others and just to be like forgiven by others, but not continue doing that way, it's never going to happen. But the moment that you want to change those ways and begin, catching yourself, then you begin to unlearn, because you're not going to do it just because to justify someone else's opinion to be forgiven. No, it's because you really want not to do that again. And when you really don't want to do that again, you begin working. But now, being the other side, being patient, it's very important to understand this. Nothing that people do when they're angry or upset is personal to us. They're just asking for help. And sometimes when we're screaming at somebody, when we're negative, just know that what comes out of us is not real. We're just asking for help, but not to the outside. We're asking for help to ourselves. And this is the moment we begin controlling our emotional poison, because it's the rattlesnake medicine. Because when the rattlesnake is young, it cannot control its poison. It will give you a bite that can kill you. But when the rattlesnake matures, it has even more poison, but it knows how to control it. And this is where I'm coming from. We are mature rattlesnakes. When we begin to controlling our emotional poison, we don't have to judge ourselves for having poison. It's part of us. You hear me?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
But we know how to control it, and we're responsible for our acts.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it takes a lot of self-mastery to do that, but you have to be aware every time you're having an interaction to realize and step back and not be attached to the body, to the situation. And that leads me nicely into, your experience of being present, because you said you had you went through a period where you truly felt no attachment or no judgment is probably the better way to say it. And then you realize actually everything in the world is neutral except for the meaning that I give it. That's when things start to shape in my mind, because it's the meaning that I give it to. So can you talk a little bit about that part of your life and, what the experience was there?
Yes, I love when you say shape, because it's about shape shifting. And we shape shift not our face, we shape shift our stories. And if you shape shift your stories don't own you. So it's like having that devotion to all those hundreds of gods, and all those hundreds of gods deserve to live, but they don't own you. You're just there to worship them and to love them and to be devotional to them. And then you find out that every mind is also a god, creating something from this beautiful dream. That the moment that we begin being angry at gods, we begin being angry at ourselves. Like if I'm begin being angry at you or being angry at my wife, it's because I'm angry at myself, and there's anger coming in. But the moment that we begin seeing this, it's like my father taught me one time, because one time I started meditating for like 2 to 8 hours a day, doing my mantras. But then when I came back, my dad said, what are you doing? You don't want to go out anymore. No, I prefer to do my mantras in my room a lot. And I got the light that I was an introvert, that people's energy got me so. He goes, no, now it's time to meditate with the eyes open. And I go, what do you mean by that? The same way you do your mantra, now you're doing it with your eyes open and you're interacting. You're going to the market, you're eating, you're going to the movies, you're holding hands with your wife, you're doing your mantra. And I tell you, brother, when I begin doing that, everything begins to shift, because I begin being more present. The energy that I hold when I was in meditation, now I'm interacting. Like right now, I'm meditating and we're interacting, doing an interview. And that holds a vibration of being present, that you are alive, that you don't forget that. But at the same time, you're enjoying, and then you become being responsible. And then you can also identify what takes your moment away. Like, oh, when this person came, I begin feeling this defensive and I lost my moment. Okay, now I can see where I can lose my moments. But the thing is about being honest and present. So we all have different techniques that, that serve us. And for me, that really helped me a lot, meditating with the eyes open, and especially being honest and not holding it in. Because sometimes when we hold it in is when we begin drinking poison that's going to hurt us, thinking we're hurting somewhere else. And, we're just clocking this clock. But honesty is one of the beautiful things, and always being honest at what your feelings and your emotions are. And, that way we don't ever have to wear a perfect mask for anybody, because this is who we are.
It's interesting you talked about meditating while you're awake, because I guess that means being, conscious every moment of the day, and not just when you're meditating in silence and, the last few minutes before bed, or when you're in an ashram. It's like something that you do while you're breathing and walking every single day in your interactions. But you've also said once you're awake, you cannot go back to sleep. Well, what do you mean by that?
That means when you wake up consciously and you're responsible for your reactions, you're responsible for your actions. You can go back to sleep. You cannot blame it. Hey, I did this because of this person, or I did this because of that other person. No, I'm responsible for what I'm doing. I'm responsible for what I'm saying. So when you wake up, you cannot lie yourself consciously anymore. You wake up to the awareness that you are the eye of God, that you are the I am, and you cannot lie to the eye of God or to the I am anymore. So you take that responsibility of holding that word and honest in your life as the biggest tool, which, without it, you never learn respect. And with it, you begin respecting yourself to the fullest, that you will not use words against yourself or against others. And this is the beautiful thing about seeing everybody sleep, because everybody is dreaming. Everybody deserves to be enjoying their dream. Who am I to take away the belief of somebody else? So with this awareness, you can shapeshift. And what do I mean by shapeshift? You can go visit your family's loved ones. You can go visit your mother, your father, your uncles, who have a different belief that you are. But you respect their dream, you respect their religious, you respect their point of view politically, and that's not going to separate you from enjoying them. And this is something that we have in life. We don't enjoy ourselves because of our belief, and we don't respect our dreams. But the moment that you begin respecting your dream, you're not imposing your will against others, and people can begin hearing you. Because if people begin pushing their belief to us, when we're not even asking for it, we're going to resist them. But if we begin watching people live, and we can say, hey, I like what they're doing over here, that's inspiring. So we can begin as artists inspiring one another. But when you begin aware that you only have one life, and this is why many people have that experience, they become enlightened, because they become aware that they have this life. Yes, we may have different consciousness in a different life, but right now we have our own consciousness. And that's what I mean. When you wake up consciously, you cannot go back to sleep, because you're responsible for what you came out of. And this is one of the beautiful things too, because you see your underworld, the darkness, the dark path, like my junkie days, I see them, they were real. But how I got out of them, that makes me be grateful every moment in my life. That makes my word even more stronger. So I can enjoy this. So I cannot put myself back to sleep, because if I try to now use again, I know what I'm doing. I'm learning Jose. I'm not floating anymore. So I know what I'm doing. So I cannot pretend that, that I go back to sleep, as I can't. Something in me woke up. And, when we people wake up in our own dream, in our own nightmares, and we begin to serving Mother, serving the divine, serving ourselves, the love of our life, we learn our lesson, and we know what we're doing, and we take that responsibility, and that make us grow up. That will make us, adult. It's not about being adult or grow up to become an elder. No, it's that you begin being responsible of the storyteller, because at the end of the day, we're just storytellers. And sometimes we believe our story so much that when it's just a story, negative or positive, you're just being loyal to the law of your life and giving ourselves a dream. So when you see as an elder, everybody dreaming, don't impose. Just deliver your heart in tenderness. What you do, what you say, what comes out of you, and that will hold an inspiration, because it's contagious. Like I am a vegan, and I love my vegan. I don't impose veganism to my family. No, they make the decisions. But when they see the acts that that my animal, my body is more healthier than ever was in my whole life, and I begin to run, I begin to even animals come to me. They get inspired. Say, what is this happening? What is this energy? Because it's contagious, and that's the truth. With love expands and grows, inspiration comes and flows. And the hummingbird is the messenger of the gods. So we are the hummingbirds.
Wow, I love that so much. No, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's important for people to realize that, yeah, what you touched on towards the end there about the food. That's one of the things I talk about is in terms of living in high vibration. You need to look at what food you're consuming, because that's a part of your vibration. And then the music and the word that you say to yourself, the people you surround yourself with, all of those things factor into living in a higher vibration. And the other thing you mentioned was when you become conscious of the acts that you do. So the law of cause and effect is something that I was reading about recently. And when you realize that, you think it's all around us. Every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause, and the chain just keeps going and going and going. And so you have to be very mindful of the things that you do and the things that you say on a day-to-day basis. And when you realize that, you can't run away from it. As you said, you can't go back to sleep. So where did the issue with the eyesight come into play? Like, what age was that, and why did that end up happening?
Well, I was 24 years of age, 24, 23 years of age. And in my young adult life, in my teenage years, I was addicted to crystal meth. So I used to snort a lot of crystal meth for like 6-7 years. So that created, make a toll in my nerve system. So when I quit, after a few years, I went to the dentist and I got a root canal. And a root canal, they did the injection overcame. So my nervous system was so damaged that behind my eye and in front of my brain, something began swelling up. So that thing that was swelling up was giving me pressure not to see. So finally, I went to the doctor, and they caught it. It was this swelling, but they didn't know how much eye damage I've got. I could have been blind for my life. But in that moment, I began surrendering, because I remember having a moment of desperation. I couldn't see this movie of What Dreams May Come. I remember it very clearly. And then when the movie was over, it goes, what now? What do I do? And one thing that happened is my mother was so panicked. She said, why is this happening to you, Jose? And I heard her so much growing up. So I said, okay, I'm going to be strong for my mother. It's okay, mother, I'm okay. So they give me the strength of, I'm not feeling like a victim. But one beautiful thing it was, that I began lucid dreaming a lot, because I began waking up more in my dreams. Because before I didn't put attention to them. I was just putting attention to something else. But when I couldn't see, that was my grasp of air, that I could see my dreams, and I'm making more decisions. So other than that, I began enjoying my life, my dreams, and I could change my dreams in my sleeping dream. So when I woke up and I got my eyesight back, I began noticing that there's no difference between this dream and the sleeping dream. Well, there's only one difference, and that's time. In this dream, we learn patience, because in the other dream goes so fast, but in this dream goes patience. So when a gardener is patient for the plants to grow, it can create so many different plants, different gardens at the same time. And this is the seeds that we put into our life. But yes, it was a crash course, and I was hurting my body. So my body resisted. So it was a lesson. And a beautiful thing about surrendering is that I did this, there was no one to blame. But at the same time, when I got my eyesight back, it hit another teaching that, we never know when the eye's going to be taken away, that every moment is precious to see. When you see your loved one, you see your wife, you see your parents, your child, you see them with your own eyes. People are in a hurry in their everyday things, their problems, but sometimes they even look at you crazy, that you're just enjoying them with such a happiness because you're present. And that also was part of my training. If I didn't go through that, I would still be blinded, wanting to see what I want to see, especially what is in front of me.
Yeah, I think some of us take for granted the fact that our heart beats without us doing anything, that we can breathe so easily without doing anything. All of these functions of the body, walking, talking, and digesting food, we don't do anything for that to happen. It just happens. And so I guess it's respecting that life force every day, even if it's for 1 minute, just to acknowledge, which I like to do, is just to say thank you for allowing me to do all of these things and have all of these senses fully working, So what was it that fully brought your eyesight back then? What do you think was the trigger or the thing that you did for you to be on the path of recovery?
Well, one part was surrender, but a big part was modern medicine. My uncle really knew what was going on. And, without that modern medicine, I would be blind. They knew exactly what medicine to give me, what machineries they use. And that's one of the beautiful things about my tradition. My grandmother is a faith healer, so we had the old shamanic tradition and with the modern medicine combined. And we know that together, this is what brings a lot of healing. So I'm so grateful for it, especially, we take for granted how many doctors, a doctor's life is, they're not with their families most of the time, so they can serve humanity. And if we begin taking care of ourselves, in our eating habits, in our everyday, we can give the doctors a little time to be with their families.
Yeah,
We
no,
can all do our
exactly.
part.
Definitely. No, that makes sense. So was that like plant medicine, ayahuasca, or like I know
No, no.
there's probably hundreds of different medicines, right?
Yeah, my family doesn't believe in analgesics to get consciousness. My father jokingly says, "You did a lot of drugs in your growing up. You don't need to do more." And one of the things that does is to overcome fear. And we all have fear in this life. We don't need to go look for it with a substance. And because fear is every day, and that's one of the gifts about meditating with the eyes open. Fear comes to us, and stories come to us. They paralyze us. How are we going to get out of them? Well, it's believing in ourselves, and that's something that we comes naturally. We don't have to go and get a substance to believe in ourselves. And that's the empowerment of our word.
Yeah, you talked about, if you jokingly said, if we look after ourselves, then we can give doctors more time back, which is true. But in terms of, looking at Western society generally, you've lived in this part of the world for a long time now. What do you think is the reason why, Western society is so sick with disease and illness?
Well, it is because, it still have mentality that they did like 60 years ago, where they said smoking cigarettes is good for your health. And the medical doctors said that 60 years ago. And before they believe it, but it's not true. And right now, people don't listen to their bodies, People drink milk that has a lot of, medicine for the antidepressant that they give to the cows. The poor animals suffer a lot. We got preservatives. And little by little, if you don't put attention to your body and you begin putting things that you don't need, even having Alka-Seltzer, I had it a lot, because I didn't let my body just do what it's naturally supposed to do. And this is something that we do. We could continue putting food that hurt us, food that is killing us. Alcohol is a depressant and it hurts the body. Soda pops, creates kidney. So there's a lot of food out there that's really hurtful to us, just like that cigarettes were 60 years ago. And people are not there yet. But now with the plant-based happening and people, really taking care of their heart and the heart disease and it's having a difference. But it's just about old habits that need to be break away. And some cultures some belief didn't have any awareness because they tell us this about they tell us this about ourselves. But now, putting attention to your body, it can be done. It can be changed, because right now we're like before our time. We see a change right now happening, and people are just catching up, just like we did in the past. But it's getting there.
Yeah, no, slowly it's getting there, definitely. So when you like, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, is there anything you do first thing in the morning, like in terms of a routine to keep yourself in high vibration or to stay present, and in the evening as well, if you do anything before bed, just to share some wisdom on that front?
Well, I take care of my masters. It's my puppies. I wake up and first thing is to take them out to, so they can be good morning, and they go potty, and then I go get breakfast, coffees for the families. But the puppies is my priority, and hanging around them a lot, it cleans my body too, because if there's problems in life, just hanging around them, they have only one desire, is to be happy with me. So I can let everything go and just be with them no matter what I'm feeling. And this is one of the most beautiful things that I've been part of. Now we're helping street dogs from Mexico getting new homes, and it's because I'm very devotional to dogs, and they help my life. So right now that's my practice. But yeah, it's this puppy. This is the puppy I take care of every day. get him good food, get him into training, get him inspired, get him creating. And just enjoying every moment of life. And everything that's negative, just removing it, going through it, feeling it, being aware that's there, but handling with the discipline. But
Yeah.
the puppies, that's
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So you just said about the awareness, like realizing that the negative emotion is there and letting go of it. I was going to ask you, if someone's listening to all of these concepts for the first time and they're living in their head so much, thinking about the past and nervous about the future, how do you become more present?
Well, it's to be aware what you're living, what you're making alive. It's like the saying says, the Greek gods talk above the clouds, and they talk among themselves. They say, we will only live until the human believe in us. When they no longer believe in us, we will no longer exist. So what gods do you have alive in your mind? Is if you're worrying about the pasta like for 20 days, and it's the same pasta, and it's just giving you stress, let go of the pasta, let go of that belief system. And it's one of the beautiful things to really be aware of yourself. Don't hurt yourself with the things that you're creating with. If you're aware that you're hurting yourself with it, let it go. It's not going to serve you. 1 year of punishment is enough. So just be aware what you're keeping alive in what gods you're keeping alive in your head, in your dream, in your vibration. If it's jealousy that's hurting you, well, stop being jealous. Like my wife likes to say, why do I want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with me? Why should I worry for a whole week? But just let it go through the emotions and let it go, because it's less painful to handle that for a week and then for a whole month. A little example.
Yeah, definitely. I read somewhere, I can't remember who wrote this, but they said that, holding on to anger or jealousy is like holding on to a hot coal. It's like you're just burning yourself. It's not doing anyone any good. So you definitely, it's just practicing to watch it, feel it, and then just let it go. Because I think emotions are indicators. They're not part of us. They're not part of our identity, but they're indicating certain things about the situation we're going through. So it's just for us to maneuver and to understand, why am I feeling this now? Is there something I need to address? So that's the best way to think about it, I think, anyway. So in terms of the fifth agreement, where did that come up in the timeline of, in terms of how old you were, and why did you decide to write it?
Well, yes, first of all, I have to say I thank you for saying that, because I love that, because that's how I talk to the divine. I don't talk to it in Spanish or English. I talk to it through emotions. Like, okay, what are you telling me? You're nervous. Okay, let me serve you. Okay, you're happy. Let me serve you. But yeah, but the fifth agreement came in when my dad was having a heart attack. When he had the heart attack, he named me his successor like a few months before that, 1 month before that. No, actually 2 weeks before that. So when he was having a heart attack, I went to his hospital bed and I said, Dad, you cannot die. Please don't leave me alone. So he stood up and says, is that the way you're going to celebrate the death of your father? Get out of the room and fix yourself now. So I saw my selfishness, that I was taking away the last moment of his life, saying, look at how I'm suffering. And not only that, I was using his death to hurt myself. He wasn't even dead yet. So in that moment, I went to this room and I said, I'm with you now, Father. And he said, now welcome back home again. And I asked him, what's the best way I can thank you for everything you teach me and showing me? And he said, very easy, my son. Help me to be skeptical, but learn to listen. Be skeptical of your negativity. Every time you say you cannot do it, every time you cannot change, every time you say yourself you're not meant for love, be skeptical of your own negativity and help me to change the world by changing your world. And I don't even have to know, but you will know. And you will know, you will honor me. So when my father almost died, like 20 years ago, 22 years ago, that's when I step up to walk my family's tradition and begin to unlearn. And the first thing was the fifth agreement, that it was angel training. And I had to learn how to be skeptical of my own negativity, because that's how we paralyze ourselves. It's like training a scorpion to stop stinging itself with his own stinger. But the scorpion continues stinging itself with his own stinger. Well, that was I. And that's how I learned the fifth agreement, by stop stinging myself with my own stinger.
Well, what would you say are the most powerful lessons from the fifth agreement? If someone hasn't read it yet and they are looking forward to picking it up because they've read the four agreements now and they want to read the fifth one, what can they expect, and what are the most important lessons that you shared in there?
Well, my most powerful message in the fifth agreement is that we all are messengers. To become aware that we're messengers, that we come into this life to give a message. But the question it is, what kind of messengers are we? What is the message that we give to the people we say we love with all our heart, and to the people, what message is the people if we give to ourselves, and what message we give to them? That's the biggest lesson, because if we like that message, we can continue. But if we don't like the message that we're giving to ourselves and to the people we say we love with all our heart, we don't like it, we can change it. And that's the biggest lesson that I got for the fifth agreement. And especially if you say, I don't believe in myself, but be skeptical about the negativity. Be skeptical about your own poison. Don't believe yourself. Don't believe anybody else, but take the action, what's in your heart. And that's how you listen with your heart. So you begin being aware about your message. And in that, you have the awareness to clean up your message. And this is the master of transformation, because we're transforming from a type of a messenger of negativity to a messenger of positivity. and a message, it just comes from the heart. We don't have to plan it, like you say. Like, I love doing the interview with you because it's all what's happening. We're following the rhythm of life. We're following the spirit, and this is how to be. There's no planning, our parents cannot plan us for life because we know what's gonna happen. But when you open your heart, you're ready for anything, because you're gonna find a mirror that's gonna match your vibration, and then you're gonna know that you're home.
Yeah, I love the way you put that, definitely. So I was going to ask you one last question before we go into the final few questions now. What is the most important conversation you've had with your dad?
Well, the most powerful conversation that I had recently is that we were with my nephew, and my nephew was playing with toys and then putting them down and play with more toys. And then I said to my dad, isn't that beautiful how children can just play with toys and then leave them and play with another toy and just be in the moment? And he goes, yes, the same way I see you and your brothers and all my children. He goes, what do you mean, Father? Yes, instead of playing with toys, you guys play with knowledge. You believe it, you put it up and you put it down. So that's one of the most beautiful things that I just recently had with my dad, that we're all humans, we're just playing with knowledge. So the moment that we begin aware that we're playing, we can just choose the most beautiful game and live it with humanity, a game that, that will make people heart open. And this is the beautiful dream of, of self-realization. This is what we're doing right now. And I'm so grateful for your invitation, brother.
No, most definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time to share that. It was an amazing story to end that with. So just to wrap up with the last few questions, if you had a microphone and you could share any message and the whole world could hear you, what would you share with them?
That you are the love of your life. Don't let anybody disrespect you, including yourself. You're here to shine and to be that shining star, and that your shines bright. And use your presence, not your story. It's your presence, not what people think about you. It's the real you that matters. So don't hide anymore, and never disrespect your art, and be the artist that you are, the Toltec.
I love that. And what's the biggest lie that we're being told right now?
That we cannot overcome our suffering, that we put ourselves down and we have to be over down, and we never have to be ourselves. It is the most beautiful thing that we can come up with, to not give the power to anybody to shut us down. And we will not use anybody to be shut down, because we are the artists and we're here to make our life a masterpiece of art. Never forget that.
Yeah, definitely. So the last question then, with everything that you've accomplished so far and everything that you will accomplish in the future, in the end, what is the legacy you want to leave behind?
One thing that I want to leave behind is to share with all my male brothers that machismo is a lie. That machismo is the thing that suppresses mother. Machismo is the one that make us be in our 80, 70 years old with our families pushing us away because of our belief system and our cult. We have to end this and embrace mother once again. No matter if you're male or female, you carry the body of divine mother. Don't ever let that divinity, femininity come out of you, because that's how mother comes out of us, to show our beauty, to have that compassion with life. And remember, machismo is a lie. And it's a time, this generation, we end with it, so we can come back and change this planet for what it was meant to be, free.
Well, when you say machismo, what do you mean for people who may not understand?
Machismo is the falseness of being a man, that you don't supposed to have the feelings, that you have to be perfect, that you don't have to have an open heart, that you cannot be feminine. And the lie it is, when you're a kid and say these things to little kids, they go to school and saying, cursing each other one to another, and make their hearts close, and in teenage years, that's when kids can be the cruelest, and they don't have any idea what they're doing. So be aware, and then machismo, don't make this spell negative one go to the little ones. And this is my legacy that I would like to hear, so I can honor my grandmother in every woman, and especially all the kids can love their families like mothers, daughters.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message, and I'm glad you ended it with that, because it's something that I was looking at recently, and looking at the masculine and feminine energy. Each individual has that, male and female. Female has masculine and male has feminine. And I think it's the society that we've been brought up in, that people say of men, like, man up, basically, man up. Like, you shouldn't have feelings, you shouldn't feel upset, you shouldn't express your emotions, because they make that more of a feminine quality, when we don't realize that actually by honoring masculine and feminine, you're honoring the consciousness, the divine, because each of us is made up of masculine and feminine, and every entity has that inside of it. And sex, which is the separation of male female, is an expression of the masculine and feminine energy. It's not the same thing. And when I realized that, it really helped to understand and live that principle which you're sharing.
Yes, and this is when the real healing begins. No more blaming one another. And Shiva Shakti, Avatar, is the energy that's been flowing for the last 2 years. So I feel it's so strong in every culture is rising up. And, there's no accident that we're seeing this transformation happening. But you're right, brother. This is the things of transformation happening, and we're just part of it. By honoring our bodies, we can do the complete healing that is needed to be done.
Definitely. So what's the best place for people to find out more about you in terms of social media, or website, all of that stuff, if they want to find out more about you and your work?
Yes, you can find out in miguelruiz.com, our events and our work that we're putting out, and in Facebook and Instagram, we're very active under Don Jose Ruiz.
Okay, amazing. No, thank you so much, Jose, for taking the time to share. This has been amazing, and I definitely think we should do a part 2 at some point in the future.
Yes, thank you so much, V, for this invitation. I certainly can't wait to get together again, and maybe one day we'll do also in London.
Yes, definitely.